the girlies say I'm pretty fly for a white girl.
Welcome back to Heroes for Hire Comic Club YouTube channel. I'm your host as usual, Matt. Actually, I'm the only host, but we have this is episode 7 of Comic Conversations. And without any further ado, I'll bring out my guest. When I talked to him the other day, and he said, "Are you trying to tempt me? Because I come from the land of plenty." And I said, "Oh, do you come from the land down under, where women glow and men plunder?" And he said, "Yes, I do." So without any further ado, here's my friend Mad Sidey. He's probably going to kill me for quoting Men at Work, but sorry.
Sorry. We're live. Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's all right. If it was an important phone call, it's okay. We'll forgive you. But we did have I just want to play something funny, just because I think I shared it with you.
I know what you're going to play. And on that note, Merry Christmas, cunts. Smoke bomb.
I was thought about making my outro, but I'm not going to do it. So
yeah, it was probably too quick for that. So when you sent that in the group chats, I was like that. Yeah, if you didn't do it, probably Remy or fucking somebody else would have.
Okay, well I didn't want to make you mad about it. I just thought it was funny.
No, it was hilarious.
We can't say it where I'm at. We get in trouble, so my mom will get mad at me. Hey, Christina showed up first today. Hey, Christina. And she's dropping your link, Road to 800. Yep, let's get him to 800 as soon as we can. TM Dirty's in the house saying happy holidays. Happy holidays.
Hey, Trav.
And there's Aaron. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Aaron.
Hope everybody had a good Christmas. Did you have a good holiday season?
Yeah, it's not too bad so far. Not great, but not
when you get
bad
older,
either.
It's not quite the same, Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle.
When you get older, it's not the same anymore. It's more about giving, which is cool. But I mean, I swear you get more adult presents. Like my dad got me a pocket knife. So
it's like I said in my stream this morning. The usual socks and jocks and and stuff like that.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
I did buy my own Christmas present as well, though. The statues I got. So I think I did all right. Okay, we'll just start out. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
What is your comic book origin story? How did you get into collecting comics? What attracted you to comic books?
Pretty much the start of it started with my old man. The old man, always a big kid at heart. Like even to today, he's like, encroaching on 90, and he's still a big kid. But when I was really young, he used to, back in the VHS days, for anybody who's old enough to remember what VHS is, that was before DVDs and Blu-rays and everything like that. And you got to say that sort of stuff because we do have some young followers sometimes. So,
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what's a VHS? A tape? But yeah, back in those sort of days, the VHS, like we used to get, obviously everybody grew up, or a lot of people grew up watching cartoons on TV and things like that. And, when I was either at kindergarten, preschool, I suppose what do you call primary school over there? Whatever it is anyway. When you're a little kid.
Yeah, grade school. We call it grade school here.
Grade school. He used to tape a lot of record a lot of the cartoons and things like that off the TV. So, the usual sort of Disney and Hanna-Barbera and Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes stuff and all that sort of stuff. But also used to a lot of the Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends and things like that. And that's pretty much where my love for animation came in, was from a very, very young age. But I think probably Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends sort of resonated with me the most. I didn't actually start collecting comics until a lot later, mainly because we grew up not with a lot of money. But yeah, that's pretty much where it started. So just watching the love of cartoons and things like that, and then slowly migrating into the comic and the collectible world, in my teenage years. So,
all right. So you probably got some of the same cartoons over there. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I think we talked about that before. And
Mm.
a few things. I always like, that's why I get my Welcome True Believers thing, or Goodbye True Believers, as Stan Lee would say that on the episodes.
That
Although
is
on
correct.
Disney Plus they edited it out. That part's not on there anymore.
Oh,
So
okay. I have it on DVD. I have the original on DVD, so I don't. I haven't actually watched it on Disney Plus. So
yeah, I don't watch as much. Sometimes it's some of the older ones are hard to watch now. They're like, did I like that? Did I like that? Not that one though. It was a great one. I watched one other day. They were like one episode of it. They were on in the Danger Room at the X-Men mansion. So I always like the episodes where they like would have like other Marvel characters show up, you know, like other heroes. So it was pretty cool. And they did a Halloween one where they all dressed up like or Peter Parker dressed up like Captain America. I thought that was kind of cool.
yeah.
But okay, so what are some of the things you love about comics and collecting comics?
So obviously, if anybody knows me now, I haven't been a reader for the longest of time, which is unfortunate. It's just more whether I don't have the, you know, sort of fortitude or the time or the energy or whatever to sort of read anymore. But I still love collecting. I still love the medium. I've always been an art guy ever since I was young as well. Never been able to draw, as Matt and I have discussed plenty of times before. But always love the art form and things like that, you know, especially the animation side of things. And so just, yeah, as I said, from the cartoons migrating into the comics and the collectibles side of things was a natural progression. But like everyone I did used to read, you know, like I used to love, you know, like you get like special appearances, like obviously Marvel, DC. I don't know, probably more Marvel, possibly, but yeah, back in the day, in the sort of the 80s and the 90s, everybody was crossing over with everybody's titles, and you know, it was always fun when you had like, you know, special cameo appearances and things like that. And the stories were cool. Like I read a lot when I was younger, but it was definitely the art that got me more than anything else.
And it's like when the Punisher was going to be in like another comic, you're like, you know, I know this one's going to be good. You know, back in the 80s, like, hey, this is going to be a good issue. It's going to be a Daredevil or a Spider-Man. You know, of course, before that, he didn't have his own series. So that's the only time you really got to see him before they started his solo series. But yeah, we have a question from Christina.
Oh, it's always been Peter Parker. Peter Parker's an OG guy. You know, it's even the same with, you know, a lot of the other Marvel characters, and even, you know, some of the DC and the independent characters have been around for a long time. I'm always an old school guy. My collecting shows that. Obviously, I collect, you know, I generally focus more on older books than I do on newer books. So yeah, definitely Peter Parker Spider-Man is my Spider-Man and always will be my Spider-Man. Not to say that, you know, Ben Reilly, Miles Morales, you know, and all the other millions of incarnations there's been in recent years because of Spider-Verse stuff. Not to say they're not cool for what they are, but yeah, still a Peter Parker guy.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I like Miles a lot. He's kind of a character y'all want to root for. You know what I mean? He's like this little kid. But yeah, it's always, for me, I'm old school. It's going to be Peter Parker because I've invested a lot of time in that character, you know. And it's like, you know, I mean, I like Miles too, though, but it's kind of like, I like the way they handled it, but I was like one of those people that didn't want to get Ultimate Fallout 4 when it came out. And, you know, as somebody that resells stuff, sometimes I kind of regret it because I should have picked up about 5 copies of it. But, you know, hindsight being 2020, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay, what? We got another Christine. I was going to let her ask questions, I think.
Yeah. The actor who played Spider-Man.
Like the actor that played, like, who's your favorite, like, actor of Spider-Man?
And Bradazzle said exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Same thing, so.
It's actually quite hard for me because, like, if we take out obviously Nicholas Hammond and the Japanese Spider-Man, you know, like the stuff that came a lot earlier, you're mainly talking about obviously Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. I think each of the 3 of them brings something to the table. Each of them, but not necessarily the actors themselves, but sometimes the storylines and the way they've portrayed them.
Yeah.
Some I really liked and some really annoyed me. Like I remember when I went to see the first Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire first Spider-Man in the cinemas, like my first reaction was, why the hell is his webbing coming out of his wrist instead of a web shooter and things like that? And I was very critical about well, that's not right. That's, that's not how it is in the comics and things like that. And obviously I've coined the phrase Hollywoodization, where they try and make comic book movies better for the general public than just the comic fans, obviously. So I can understand that. But yeah, I've learned to overcome my judgments and things like that, especially with the movie side of things because of that. But yeah, in saying that, like, Tobey Maguire, I think is a great actor. I think he wasn't enough of a smartass for me, like Peter Parker Spider-Man is supposed to be a smartass. Hey, Jace. Andrew Garfield was more of a smartass. But then he wasn't necessarily a great Peter Parker. And then Tom Holland he has the physical attributes, like he's younger, he's a lot more athletic, like he's actually doing some of his stunts and things like that. So he looked more the part, but once again, he was a bit more not as a smart ass as what Spider-Man's supposed to be. So, like, each of them had great, good and bad. I think, to be perfectly honest, I think Andrew Garfield is probably the closest thing that I thought was to my Spider-Man, like the OG Spider-Man. Like acting-wise, look-wise, Tom Holland. So, yeah, I'd probably go Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, then Tobey Maguire.
Okay. Yeah, I like Tom, but I don't know. Sometimes he felt like instead of being enough of a smartass, he's a little bit too excited to be there. Like when he was but I mean, I do like the part like where he's like talking to like in a Civil War where he's like fighting with a Winter Soldier and Falcon, and he's kind of like, they're like, how old is this kid? Because they're like, do you remember? They're telling me when they say something about like Empire Strikes Back. Do you remember that old movie Empire Strikes Back? They're like, Jesus, I don't know if we can stand this kid for much longer.
They were more a smartass to him.
Yeah,
hey, Rod, more of a smartass to him than he was to them, which is not supposed to be the way it's supposed to go. So, let's see if I remember I'm gas with Mysterio. Yeah.
It was a big moment, but I don't know. It's hard to pick one because they all brought something to the role. Even if we want to talk about Hammond back in the 70s, they all brought a little something to it. So,
yeah, no, definitely.
But I'm a little old school because I used to watch that. I remember watching Incredible Hulk and the Spider-Man TV show when I was a kid, and Wonder Woman, like all three of those, and we'd watch reruns of Batman. But then, like that Batman '66, when you get older, you're like, God, that really was pretty cheesy, But to a 10-year-old or 8-year-old or 6-year-old, you're like, wow, Batman's on TV. But yeah, you look back at it and you go, well, it might have set that, but you look back at it and you realize it probably set the character of Batman in the comic books back like 20 years, like where they kind of like hurt him in the long run. Like they took like people like Frank Miller to get his cojones back, if you know what I mean.
But it's in saying that too, like, yeah, it's exactly what you said, like word for word. I believe in that as well. I think it's more the fact that, like, obviously, I read a few Batman back in the day, but I didn't read much older stuff. But the older stuff was more fun and campy and, and like more colorful. It wasn't until it started getting towards sort of like those 70s and 80s and 90s where they really made him go like dark and broody and like he was actually the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Not just some guy that was like, pow and boom and
Bang,
zam, and, and bright colors and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it changed with the times.
Hey, I know the answer to this one already, I think, but I'm going to ask it. What is your favorite comic book series?
Oh, I wonder. Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man, definitely. That's the one that I've been trying to get a complete an entire run from number 1 until current for the last 20-something years. Obviously, like a lot of collectors, in, out, in, out, in, out. It's not. If I had have done it constantly, I probably would be there already.
You're pretty damn close as it is, though.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely amazing. Obviously, I'm kind of glad in a way that I'm not a reader anymore, because I know how bad a lot of the modern Marvel stuff has been, and people are very vocal about that.
Yep.
But in saying that, I've always tried, even with the movies and the Disney Plus series and things like that, I've always tried to find some kind of silver lining. Like, always try and find the good and the bad, because I love watching anything comic book related, especially Marvel based stuff. And if I try and look for the silver lining, I can find a way to enjoy a show. That's or a comic or whichever. So it's yeah. Always look at that side of things. Try and look for that positive.
I try to keep positive anything,
I think I have a little bit of Marvel team up, but not a lot. It's probably a question that's probably coming up, but I tend to find myself, I will, when I go hunting for books, obviously I'm looking for silver, bronze, copper age. I'm more of an old school guy, as we've mentioned. I do tend to either cover buy for old school books. So you're not looking at, oh, I like that variant, because that wasn't a thing back then. It's more, oh, I like that team up, or I like that character, or, it's just a cool looking old school cover. So I will, if it's cheap enough, I'll buy it, sort of thing. And that's what tends to happen with me. I tend to realize I get a whole heap of a run, and then I go, oh, I didn't even realize I'm actually quite close to a run. I have half of a run, and then I actually actively start seeking out that run. So team up is not one that I do have a lot of, but I do have some issues. So maybe I'll get around to that run one of these days. It would be nice. Do you have any other friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the Jaws homage? Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has been that's had a few volumes, I think, if I remember rightly. Never got much of it, but I do have an odd issue here or there. But
so do you collect all Spider-Man books, or just Amazing Spider-Man? Spider-Man.
That was the other part to the journey, was that probably, let's say maybe 10 to 15 years ago, I was finding it hard to find older issues of Spider-Man over here. Because if anybody knows me, anybody knows what Australia is like, it's quite hard, quite expensive to buy books over here. I did get to a point where I'm struggling to find, I didn't branch out as much and get other titles and other other characters and things as much back then as I do now. So I ended up saying, well, I can't afford these old school books. I don't have that kind of money. So I started collecting Spectacular, the original volume. I got the whole entire run of Spectacular, volume 1. I do have bits and pieces of some of the later volumes, but I concentrated on volume 1, and the same with Web of Spider-Man. And then obviously the one in the 90s, I went on to that as well. And the only one I never actually collected was the the original Ultimate Spider-Man run. I never bothered with that because I don't like the alternate universe crap. Obviously it's more commonplace now, but I do prefer the old school stuff. So I tend to stick to that. So I do have quite a few other Spidey titles, some complete, some incomplete. But something I can get around to again.
I was asking about the new Jaws. Well, I'll tell you what I'll say about that. If there is a new Jaws, I'll never watch it, because you can't improve on perfection. I'm just gonna let them take over. They were asking some electric company issues are hard to find over here. I was wondering if you ever see them in Australia. Do they even have the electric company in Australia? The show? I didn't think so. I don't know a lot about the research there.
Though in saying that, I might have some issues as well. I try to stick to the main runs more than anything else. So that's another hard question. Like, there's been so many awesome. Like, I always say, I think Spider-Man and Batman have probably got the two best rogues galleries. Like, not to say other characters or other franchises don't have, but I think personally they have probably the two biggest and the best. Rogues galleries for sure. So it is very hard. Like, I do love your mainstays. I do love Craven and the Goblins, and Vulture, like the Sinister Six guys. But I do like to deep dive a lot too. Like, I have a lot of love for lesser known villains. Ones like your Carrion or Vermin or Cardiac, or some of the other villains. Some have been around a lot longer than others. But yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard. I do have an affinity for the Sinister Six, obviously, because they've been around so long. But I do have and not because it's topical right now, but Craven is one of my more favorite sort of villains. So.
Oh well, yeah, I love the Craven's Last Hunt series, but
yeah.
I'm a big Nick fan. That's why. Well, somebody asked a question about your favorite spider artist, but we'll get into artists here in a little bit later because that's kind of one of my questions. So,
stop stealing his questions.
Yeah, somebody's like been looking at my notebook. Okay. So why did you decide to start a YouTube channel about comic books, Simon?
This is a bit of an interesting story. Like, a lot of people are like, I used to watch Gem Min or Comic Tom or Comic Tropes or like all these big channels. And like, I thought I could do that too. I make the joke of it was actually peer pressure. It basically started like, if nobody knows the story, if you know who Simple Simon is, Simple Simon, another fellow Aussie, obviously another Simon. We knew each other as kids. So I've known Simon, since we were, I don't know, I think he was probably 10 and I was like 15 or something like that. Grew up around the same area, lived around the same area. His parents had a restaurant in the local area as well. So we used to, hang around like, sort of idiot kids just doing dumb shit and playing basketball and other sports and things like that in the local area. So yeah, I knew him for quite a while. And then obviously you lose touch, you get into girls, you go to different schools, you start working, things like that. I lost track, we lost touch for probably 20 years. And then I walked into a place where he was working at the time, and I'm like, I know you. And then he's like, hey, I know you too. And he's like, obviously, and then I found out he had a YouTube channel and things like that. And so I started watching his channel, and then, we started like, actually catching up and sort of rekindling the friendship and things like that. And we basically, like, from there, I started watching like, all the friends that he was making and things like that. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. But my problem is I'm not a camera guy. I've always been one to shy away from photos, shy away from videos. That's why I don't have a lot of, that sort of stuff from when I was younger. Obviously, if my folks took it, different story. But generally, I would not be in a lot of, physical media, Kevin, I suppose you could say.
Yeah. Kevin sent me a picture of that comic book he was talking about.
Oh yeah, I do know the one he's talking about now. Yeah, no, okay. I've never even seen that. I know the book, but I've never seen it over here. But yeah, so like pretty much, and then I said to Simon, I said, oh look, this was when I decided to cull my collection and put it straight everything Marvel. So I said to him, I go, look, I've got a whole pile of DC and independent books and that. I said, if you want them, you can just have them. So he came by my place. We pretty much, I gave him all my comics and everything like that I didn't want. And then he goes, he's like looking around. He's like, oh, you've got so much stuff. He goes, you got statues, you got comics, you got art and things like that. He goes, maybe you should start a YouTube channel. I said, no, I can't get in front of the camera. I can't do that sort of stuff. And then he put me onto another guy. His channel name used to be Comic Books NYC. He's now changed it, I think, to Panels pixels and pages, I think it is. But he's a big original art guy. And basically between Simon and him, they got me. He used to have an original art hour where he would get like this. It would be like an interview style show, but it'd be about your original art collection. So I actually basically got, I went on to this guy's show who I didn't know from, anything. And we became good friends, went on the show. And then, so between Simon and Comic Book NYC, they both basically said, no, you need to start a YouTube channel. And thus Mad Sidey was born. So, and I've been here April. It'll be 4 years for me. So
that's good. I mean, that's pretty. Also, you're almost to 800 for that time. It's pretty good, I think. I mean, you told me it's kind of a slow slog there for a while. Like it slowed down on the.
It's for me. It's always been a slow. It my as John's Comics with Kids will say, a snail channel. I definitely a snail channel because I've seen people, get 1,000 under 12 months. And I've seen people take 10 years to get to 1,000. So it can be a very hit and miss game. It can be discouraging at times, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm still having fun. Yeah, I go through stages where I'm like, I'm having a bad time at work, or there's stuff going on at home, or anything like that. So I'm just like, I'm not in the right mindset to do videos. I have had a lot of personal stuff happen in the last few years, which sort of discourages me at times to not do content. And but saying that, I still enjoy the friendships, making the connections, just showing things that I love on the channel.
Yeah, so that just goes into the second follow-up question to that is what do you love about it? And I'll just throw out there as a community. To me, it's not. I don't care about I'm not at the point where I can worry about views or getting monetized or anything like that. So I just enjoy having other people, like-minded people, be able to talk about comics with, because I don't know anybody around here in my local area that really collects comic books. I mean, I could show them to some friends. They're like, "Oh, that's cool, man. That's sick cover, bro. It's sick art." But they don't.
That's as far as it goes.
Yeah. They're like, "Oh, I like Venom," but they don't really like Venom like we do, or like, they think Captain America's cool, but like, me, I'm trying to get like every issue of Captain America Volume 1. I'm like that with you are with Amazing Spider-Man, and like, so even if you don't collect all the Cap like that, but you are a guy that collects runs, see, and and we relate to it, and I just like meeting people. Like, you're like actually the first friend I've ever had from Australia, so
there you go.
I think it's kind of cool, and I think we're friends now. I mean, I'm pretty
100%, and as we've said, in joking, we might be distantly related because we do have the same last name.
We got the same last name, so I don't know. Maybe some of my ancestors were in Australia back in the day, like when it was a colony or something, but yeah, I don't know. You never know. But that's what's great about it. And then like hopefully one day we can get you to the States. But
that is the dream, and it has been for a long time. So
one of these days, I mean, it may not be like I know everybody was joking about like Mark was talking about getting you to Heroes Con this year, but I was like, I don't, it's kind of hard to just like, especially if you're coming from another country like that, to come to the States. It's something you need to plan out for like a year. So it'd be hard.
It's not like just dropping everything like that and just going, oh, I'm just going to go now. I'll be back next week, sort of thing.
If we were all high rollers, we could I'd be like, I'm gonna get on my private jet and go pick Simon up at the airport in Melbourne. But maybe one of these days, if I win the Powerball and you get a call and it sounds like I'm on a plane, I'm probably coming to get you on my new jet. So we'll bring you over here.
Nice. I'll hold you to that too.
There'll be subtle signs like the behind me will be like every #1 issue from the Silver Age from Marvel. We can only dream about stuff like that, though, right? I mean, at this point,
it's always disheartening, but it's also fun to dream about it.
I know. Well, it's like sometimes I get on these shows and these guys will be throwing these bangers out there, and I'll be like, that's what got me to where I was like, I'm not going to buy many new comics anymore. I'm just going to, I'm focusing on the Transformer stuff because I started out getting it, and I hate to quit getting it because it's an amazing run, and I love the Transformers. I grew up on that, but like, I don't know. It's just we got it's the kind of guy you can go to a con with and have some beers at the pub after with, and those are few and far between. Yet I agree, but I'm lucky. We're fortunate, I think, on here. So a lot of the people that we became friends with on here are cool. They're not in it for clicks and like controversy, and we just talk about comics, and everybody helps each other out. Like I was on Trev the Shipping Guru's Christmas show last night, and he gave away like 5 giveaways. I won like New Avengers 1 through 20, and one of them's got the first appearance of Sentry in it, I think. And that's just how generous this community is. Like even you and like we look at all the people that came together in Beckerman. It's been a tough holiday season, but I will get your free giveaway out in January from Spidey's show. But like all the stuff to give away, or even like Omni Bo and the Ozzyverse. Look at all the stuff they gave out for their 1,000 subs. I mean, it's a very generous community. And okay, I got to catch up on some of these questions here. Or statements. Here we got Random Rips. He was on a 7-day trip to Hong Kong. I had 3 months to prepare. I thought that was plenty of time. LOL. It probably wasn't. If you don't know what he's talking about, he won a contest on an American sitcom called the Drew Carey Show, and he won a trip to Hong Kong. So I thought that was very cool.
Oh,
you don't mind me telling everybody, Kevin. Yeah. No, Tim and Dirty's like DC fans unite. All right, buddy.
He did. Trav likes to try and dig the knife in a little bit with the DC
I
stuff.
know.
He's a smart ass, but I love him. So you went end up being challenged. I could tell you a few people in the community to be careful if you're going out drinking with.
Some bad cats. Yeah, there's a few, but we got the good ones, I think. And like, Comics Embrace. This is my Kentucky friend. I met him on Aaron's show. It's a big part of it for me. I'll plan like I don't have like how we used to go to the TV guide or like look on the guide on the television to see what's on the telly, or the boob tube or whatever you want to call it. I don't know why they would call it the boob tube, but I mean, especially when never mind. But like you're like, what am I going to watch tonight? Well, I'm like, what streams on tonight? You know what I mean? Like I always know usually unless something happens, you're going to be on here, which is it was Sunday. It's Sunday morning for you, Saturday night for us. So and you always have it at a perfect time for us Americans to get on there because we're at home on the weekend, maybe when we can go on there. I was like, if I'm at home at that time, I will be on your show. I plan. I don't watch that much TV anymore, to be honest. I have to like work out time to get on TV now.
Get very much like that.
Because of Aaron and Matt, typically this.
In saying that, and that's probably digressing a little bit, but that was actually an inherited time slot. Okay. It was inherited and once again peer pressured onto me because what had actually happened is it originally started with a guy named Chip Getler, who, if you're an old school guy, you will remember who Chip is. Chip's he started off calling his channel just his name, and then he went to being called the White Shadow, and he used to do a show called Banter, and that would be like my show, would go for 2 hours or it'd go for 10 hours, or it was just a hangout show, just good old fun. And then when Chip decided to give up YouTube, Remy Q Studios took it over, and then it became Remy's Place. Remy ran it for a while, but then towards the end, Remy was like, it was a little bit sort of, like he had home life that, was interfering, or that show was interfering with home life and things like that. So he decided, I don't really do it anymore. So we're all sitting there on, I think it was either the second last or the last Remy's Place. And there was a whole panel, all us old school guys, and like, who's going to take it over? And they basically all pointed the finger at me. They pretty much said, you can do it. It's your, you need the views, you need to try and, get your subs up and all that sort of stuff. You can do it. So I was pretty much peer pressured into it, but I've loved it ever since. So, and it's great. And so just the ensemble cast that I get, all the guests on the panel and the people in the chat have just been fantastic. So, if you had to choose between these two characters, who are you choosing, Silver Surfer or Hulk? I do love both characters, but I'd say Silver Surfer for me would just edge out Hulk.
Okay.
Only because I used to collect Silver Surfer a bit when I was younger as well. It was one of my other character runs that I started when I started getting into trouble with the ASM run.
They said something about I blame the bad cast community for any reason Chip dropped off. I like what Sandman says. You can't let a couple of rotten apples ruin your barrel. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, without getting into too much detail, basically Chip Getler was the actual one that broke the story on YouTube about Acetate Gate. He was the guy that actually he was in the line.
They stapled an acetate cover to the already existing cover of the comic. Yeah, okay, I remember that.
He was actually in the line. He saw all the happenings, and he just said, "Look, I'm not doing this as a negative or a positive. I'm just reporting what exactly happened."
Yeah.
And his channel just blew up. Like next day, just blew up. But then obviously with all the good stuff and all the backup and all the friendships you make, all the arseholes come out as well.
Yeah.
And he basically said, I'm not doing this anymore. Screw it. So
you can't blame him. You know, how much of your time are you going to really give to people that are putting that out there in the world of negativity?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know.
Yeah, Blinky Bill is a very old school character. Bluey is more of a new character, so I don't know as much about him. But yeah, we've put out a little stuff that's made it past our small continent or island, whichever you'd like to call it.
Well, I don't think I've heard that. You might have to send me a link to a video of one of those diving after the show. I'll check it out. Yeah. Okay, what are okay? I always used to say, "What are your 5 favorite?" But I think that's too much pressure. So, just name
five favorite characters.
I don't know, artists or writers. So I'm just going to say, what are some of your favorites? You don't have to be like, are you ranking or anything like that?
Oh no, just in no particular order.
Yeah, in no particular order either.
Obviously, yeah, as I said, like probably artists is probably a lot easier for me because I always focus more on the art than I did the stories and the like. I didn't even really know many writers until like I started heavily getting back into comics again in like my 30s. Like, you know, you knew about writers like, you know, Stan Lee and stuff like that, of course, but it was always about the art for me. So, you know, obviously being an old school guy, like I probably couldn't name 5, but obviously I love Ramita Sr., I love Ditko, you know, Big John Buscema, Jack Kirby, you know, all the old school guys that basically were the groundbreakers, especially for Marvel. Getting towards sort of, you know, like, you know, I'd say the Bronze Age sort of stuff, I started falling in love with, you know, like Bernie Wrightson and Barry Windsor Smith and, you know, Neil Adams, you know, people like that, Gene Colan,
Nick Cardy.
you know, yeah, like all that sort of artists. And then obviously more recent times, you know, I love, you know, Del Otto. I love a lot of the European and Asian artists. Like I like
a lot of the European
Del
ones,
Otto, Bianchi,
and the Latin American ones are coming up too a lot here lately.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I would say a lot of the artists of nowadays, even some of the old school guys, I would even call some of them, you know, I wouldn't call them friends, but I wouldn't call them acquaintances either. I'd call them somewhere in between, because obviously collecting art, getting to know the artists, and spending time with them when they come to Australia. George Perez is another one. You know, a lot of them I've, you know, I've become a lot more like friendly with, I'd suppose you could say. So, you know, it's been a fun ride.
I'd say mine, and I don't do it like Mount Rushmore, because then I would have to include other people that I don't follow as much because of their contributions. So, like, but obviously, what I grew up on, like Todd McFarlane, Frank Miller, George Perez, and the writer side, Marv Wolfman, Frank Miller again. You can put him on both sides of the spectrum, really. But not like, so you know, John Romita years, but yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it's subjective, I think, but I still like. I mean, you know what? Let him cash his Marvel checks, is what I say. But then, like, you know, I like Neil Adams, stuff like that. Neil Adams is probably, and Bernie Wrightson, and the three I always call the big three to me will always be Neil Adams, Bernie Wrightson, and Frank Frazetta. But Frank Frazetta is more of an artist. I don't know that I know he did a lot of comics, but like he's more known for his paintings and his stuff like that. But like his work with Conan the Barbarian and Vampirella is like top notch in my opinion.
Yeah, so most people think of Frank Frazetta as in like, you know, Death Dealer and like stuff like that, like more the fantasy painted art sort of stuff.
Movie posters.
They don't really associate him more with like superhero stuff. So, you know, sometimes he gets forgotten about when you're talking about like comic book heroes and things like that. So
yeah, but he didn't like, you know, him and Bernie didn't really draw a lot of superheroes. But one of my favorite books that Wrightson did was called Spider-Man Hooky. It was a graphic novel, I think, in the 80s. And it's the only time he's ever drawn Spider-Man. If I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but I think it's the only time he's ever drawn a Spider-Man comic. So
I think he might have done some in the Marvel Comics Presents days.
Oh, okay.
But not much though.
So we have a lot of people going back and forth. Some people think the writer's more important. It just depends on your, you know, like a lot of things when I was a kid, I didn't know. I don't know about you, but and I'll ask you this: did you like learn about some of the artists later on? Because I didn't know. Like I remember picking up, and I've said this story many times, and it's like beating a dead horse at this point. But like the first comic I bought with my own money off my allowance, I went to the convenience store, the corner store, and bought. They had a spinner rack and they had Amazing Spider-Man issue 322. I didn't know it was Todd McFarlane, but like, you know, later on I looked back and I was reading Captain America and ASM at that time period, or like the Punisher and G.I. Joe, and it was Mike Zeck was a lot too.
Yeah.
So I didn't know at the time, but I was consuming a lot of Todd McFarlane, Mike Zeck, and later on like Rob Liefeld or Dan Jurgens. You see their names on the comic, but you wouldn't. Like, well, okay,
you don't click.
Really yeah, you don't really care about that. Yeah, it's best. It's best when they like here, Kevin. When they work together, like, yeah, because nowadays, I don't know what you think, so I'll ask your question. But do you feel like more of the artists and the writers were more collaborative? I felt like they were more collaborative back in the day when we were kids collecting. You know,
well, in saying that, like you have great artistic teams. So like you have, you know, like Jim Lee, Scott Williams, you know, like the pencil and the inker and that, like there's quite often you don't get one without the other with a lot of titles and a lot of books. So there's a lot of artistic teams, writers. Yeah, you can get some, you know, some good team ups that they like if they work well together. They sometimes get kept, or like, you know, oh, we want to do a new book, we must have this artist, we must have this writer. Probably not as much as what it used to be, like as Matt said, but it's still yeah, I think back in the day it was more, yeah, like, you know, you have like Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum and, you know, like stuff like that where it was always, you know, the same two. It was always the writer and always the artist sort of thing teamed up together. But yeah, not I think because there's so many more people in the industry now, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artists. There's hundreds,
and they don't have to be in the office together anymore. They can be like we could do a book and I could be writing it and you could be drawing it in Australia, for example. And we wouldn't even meet in person. We would just be like, I would share pages with you and you would share pages with me. So there might be like a little lost in translation now because of our digital world, you know. But we got a good one here. Like we said, Kirby is king for a reason. Yes, I will agree with that.
Yes, exactly. No, that's undeniable. So, but it's the same with like a lot of guys. Like we have some, we don't have a lot, but we do have some published artists from Australia over here. Like the same with Asia, same with Europe, same with, you know, British Isles and things like that. Like it's not just an American-based industry anymore. There is a lot worldwide. There is artists and writers all over the place. And because it's a digital world, it's so much easier to collaborate with people these days.
I just want to say to the chat, you guys are amazing tonight. I'm having trouble keeping up with these guys. We got like 19 viewers right now. We've averaged about 20. So I think I got a popular guest. That's one of the biggest ones I've had since lunch.
No, they're all here for you, mate. They don't care about me. They're all here for you.
I don't sell yourself short. Okay, next one is going to be, what are some of your favorite comic book characters? Obviously, we know Spider-Man is one of them. But you can expand on that why you like him, you know, but other. And I think you like Submariner too a lot. Or you're
Yeah,
collecting
well, like, and as I said, like it all started. Like I've always loved the Marvel universe. I've always loved comics and stuff like that. Yeah, that's right, Simon Who. But I dived into other characters, like when I start, like, you know, when my sort of the Spider-Man run started drying up a little bit and it was getting a little bit harder. I dived in a lot to Wolverine, to Punisher, to Ghost Rider, and Silver Surfer. Obviously, you're seeing a little bit of a trend with the anti-hero type characters.
Yeah.
I do tend to sway towards some of because obviously Spider-Man's, you know, quintessentially your goody two-shoes type character. But in saying that, yeah, like I think probably mixing it up with some anti-hero type characters, it was it was quite good. Obviously, yeah, I started, you know, collecting volume 1s of a lot of characters, like the ones that I mentioned. So I do have some decent runs, whether they're complete or not. I'd have to have a look, but I think most of them are complete. And obviously started branching out a lot more after that. Yeah, I'm pretty much collect everything and anything now. But yeah, favorite character wise, yeah, I'd say those ones would probably be some of my favorites for sure, apart from Spider-Man, obviously. You guys like you bringing the human fly back? Can you pick up a few issues? I'll be more than happy to compensate.
Okay.
Because people are noticing. Because I don't know whether that's supposed to be a dig on the flies that keep buzzing in front of my face and I keep shooing away, or whether he's actually being.
I don't know.
Very eye for an eye on the bad guys.
The shadow, yeah. Well, I like both. I like the guys like, you know, Peter Parker or Captain America. They try to do what's right, regardless of how it affects them. And and Peter does the right thing even when it like affects his personal relationships or his work relationships. You know, Captain America, you know, even since it's affected friendships, like in Civil War, is a good example. Or like, you know, when he quit, remember when they found out the president was corrupted, and he decides to be nomad. So there's the guys that are like that, but I also like the guys like, you know, the Punisher is like, no, I'm going to get these criminals come and I'm going to punish them. We're going to take them out. We're going to kill them. And so, I mean, it's a good mixture. You got to have both, I think, in the hero world. You got to have the vigilante, like it's just going to punish bad guys. You know, or like Mark Miller is good for that with his Nemesis guy. He's like a psychotic Batman. And he's saying the human fly
was a real dead of a marble put out of. Oh, okay. I got
a little dog over here trying to.
I know there. I know there was, and that's probably whether that's another question you're getting to or not. But I know, like, Australia did a lot of reprint type stuff for us, like in the 60s and the 70s, and even up to the early 80s. You had companies like Newton Comics, Yaffa Comics, Federal Comics. They did a you were mentioned earlier, Simon. You got a shout out. And that's the thing. Like the foreign market now is actually rapidly increasing. Like a lot of people are getting into foreign stuff. There are people chasing Australian reprints of things. Obviously, they looked, they were a lot less quality. Like everything was like on newsprint, even the covers, all the internals were black and white because we didn't have obviously the means to do the glossy sort of stuff back in those days. But it's increasingly getting more popular. And I thought, maybe that's what he meant by the human fly sort of thing. But these human flies will be all new original stories, no reprints. So is it an Australian company actually doing them, or?
All right. I have no. That's the first I've heard of it. So,
if there's something over here that you can't get over there, I'm more than happy to help a brother out. So just easy done.
All right. Well, just send us get in contact with him if you got him on Instagram. He's a cool dude. They're going to sit. He said it's an Australian company is doing it. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll have to do some research on that.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it. Yeah, that's no drama.
That might be it right there, I guess. Okay. Can't get them in the States, he said. All right. Well, we'll see. Maybe we can work something out. You can work something out with him. That's all right.
Yeah, well, you do. I am interested in your shipping container full of old books that you're trying to help get rid of. So
yeah.
any old school
I
Marvel, you got my opinion. You got me going.
I told him I was going to help him. I got I claimed a few from the other day to get so he can clear it out a little bit. Hopefully, I can help him a little bit more when I get some money. So what are the characters? Is there anything else you collect besides comics?
Oh wow, that's a very long and detailed question. Or should I say answer? I've done the usual. Bless you. I did. Obviously, like, I don't know whether it's just me. I know kids generally when you're a lot younger, you chip and change. What doesn't Spidey collect exactly? When you're a kid, especially with things like sports and stuff like that, you sort of shut up, Simon. You try different sports. You're like, I'll do football for like 2 weeks. No, I don't like this anymore. I'll try basketball now. You try that for a month, and you go, no, I don't like that. I've been in and out of so many different things. It's not funny,
Same
but
here.
like presently, obviously some things are aggressive, some things are passive, some things are passive aggressive, but original art is obviously another big one that I collected for well over a decade. I amassed, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 pieces of original art. I say I'm on hiatus, but I could probably say I'm sort of retired. I may get back into it at some stage, but like comic books, original art has just gone straight through the roof. So it's very hard to collect two expensive hobbies at the same time. Statues, obviously, I don't generally buy a lot of statues anymore. I still have quite a collection that I showcase on my channel. And yes, I have a small tie collection. It's all comic book ties that when I back in another life, when I actually was doing a salesperson role, I had the proper button-up dress shirt, and I had to wear a tie. I'm like, I'm not wearing the company tie. I'm going to wear comic book ties. What's up, Mark? Yeah, I have comic books. I have statues. Another movie guy. I'm a very big movie collector. I don't buy as much. I don't buy as much as what I used to. I still buy an odd Blu-ray or a DVD or whatever now and again. But yeah, I don't buy as much as what I used to, obviously, because physical media is kind of a dying art, unfortunately. You don't get as much as what you used to be able to. I collect Marvel Hot Wheels cars. I have quite a few hundred of those. I have everything in the hundreds. Because when I get into it, I go crazy and then I stop and then I just dabble now and again and then I get back into it and then I go crazy and then I stop for a while. So what else have I got? I got a lot of little like knick-knacky things and things like that. Like, pretty much all yeah, I know, Mark. Mark and I are both physical media people. Yeah, VHS is coming back, and I threw out hundreds of VHS, unfortunately. But anyway, That's another story. Another story for another day.
All those other things you love. I know we both share an appreciation for Hong Kong cinema, especially action cinema.
Yeah, Hong Kong. Okay. So obviously, being a movie guy, obviously you start off with certain genres like action or horror or sci-fi or rom-com or whatever it happens to be. I always had an affinity, like a lot of males do, for the action stuff, but I dived into the international market in the early days, got absolutely hooked on all your kung fu movies and ninja movies, and I really dived into it, started getting a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays and things like that, trying to track down anything and everything that I can and it was more to do with certain actors. So I have like nearly all the Jackie Chan movies, all the Jet Li movies, all the Donnie Yen movies, but I dived into How do you sleep with all that noise? What noise? The noise that's in my head. Not very well.
There's noise coming from my kitchen in here. I don't know.
Possibly. I've just got a little bit of wind, but that's about it. And the odd car going past. But yeah, a lot of the Hong Kong. But I dive down like into other actors that are not as well known from the Hong Kong cinema. Even the Japanese, Korean, even Thai. Like obviously, I knew about Tony Jaa with like Ong Bak before. Oh, see, I know what he's talking about now.
Okay.
Fuck you, Mark. It's all right. I'll tell you the story another time. But yeah, it's an ongoing joke. But yeah, I started getting into a lot of the other stuff, even some of the European stuff, but mainly the Asian cinema stuff. Like I knew, as I was saying, I knew about Tony Jaa and Ong Bak before a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon. Love you too, brother. And then I just branched out from there and just, went back into the old school stuff, found out about newer stuff, learned about more actors and things like that. And that's what sort of got me onto it a lot. Just follow certain actors and actresses into what they actually do and go back into their back catalogue. Like what you do with comics, you find a new character in today's age and then some people get into their back catalogues. Same sort of deal.
That's what I did when I discovered like Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez films, and then you go back and you can read about them and what we influenced them, like movies like The Wild Bunch or like John Woo films, Sonny Chiba films, Shogun Assassin. And they always do little tributes to those in his movies. So it's Robert Rodriguez or off the old Grindhouse cinema. I grew up on like, of course, me and you probably grew up on watching the same things, even though we lived in different continents. Mad Max series and those canon films like American Ninja, Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja.
Love like that stuff is. It's so low budget, but I don't give a fuck. It's awesome stuff.
Ninjas in Daylight.
I love that shit. I can still watch it to today. I don't care. I love it.
And I watch those movies are also a lot more fun to watch with a group of people. I think, like you're having a couple of ales or something or beers and maybe a bourbon or something, or maybe if you're in the States, we got a lot of legal now. You can smoke some of those. As my grandpa would call them left-handed cigarettes. Watch that.
Not so much over here, and I don't get into that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I know. But we're turning our country into a bunch of potheads, I think. But that's a story for another day. So I don't have to ask you if you like Marvel or DC better. I'm pretty sure it's Marvel, so we'll skip that one.
I'm waiting for TM Nerdy to dime in at this point, but
what
might not be here
comics anymore. Or comics in your collection are like the ones you would save if your house was on fire?
I always hate these questions because I would want to save my whole room or everything that I own because and it's not where because a lot of people would be like, I can look at this and I've had my enjoyment, I can get rid of it now, sort of thing. I've never had that mentality because I've never been a seller. It's bad enough getting it from TM, Mark. Come on, get off. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I've literally, as I briefly touched on earlier, my folks didn't have a lot of money growing up. Pretty much everything and anything that I own or have owned at some point, I've had to, do low wage, low income type jobs, even just part-time jobs as a kid, like, paper rounds and things like that. I've had to scrape and scrounge and save my ass off to try and get everything that I have. So it is very hard for me to let go of anything at all that doesn't bring me enjoyment, whether it did then or whether it does now, or whether it has done for the whole entirety I've owned it. Very, very hard. I suppose if I had to, I'd probably try and grab the box that has all the earliest Amazing Spider-Man books in there. But I'd probably try and grab, a couple of my art folios as well, because, all that stuff, especially the art folios, because it's all commission pieces and it's all original art. It's all one-on-one. It's not, that's all there is. So, it'd be very, very hard for me to. I'd be more inclined to die fighting the fire than trying to grab something and
There you
get
go.
out.
Or like Missing Mars said, fireproof cabinets, folks. Fireproof cabinet. Okay. I guess there's one way to go at it. I didn't think of that, but it's a good idea. You only do physical.
Yeah, I'm the same. As I said, like I don't do digital anything. Everything I have is all physical. So it's like, and I don't get me wrong. There's nothing against digital. If people want to do digital, that's fine. I've got nothing against it. Me, I want to go. I own this. I can touch it. I can look at it. I can watch it. Hey, Sean. It's physically here. Whether it's digital, is like, oh, I've got no internet. I can't look at it.
Yeah.
Or my TV's broken. I can't watch it. Whereas I got it physical, I can just go and grab it. Nice and easy.
I think we should.
He wants to buy a house with all my stuff.
Oh yeah, he's just trying to get. There's no real smell to it. Yeah, I guess it doesn't. Well, I like to dabble in both of them. But like I tell you what, as far as the physical media game, if you're a retro video game collector like I tend to be, they make it hard on you now with the prices on some of these game cartridges for Nintendo. I will say that. But I like to have like physical copies of stuff too, because hey, I've had it too. If I still got where I moved in with my mom after my stepdad passed, a lot of my stuff's still in boxes. So all my DVDs are still in the basement, right? So like if the internet goes out, I'm screwed unless I've saved something in my hard drive. I'm not going to have anything to watch. But at least I have a box full of comics to enjoy,
Yeah.
We got, okay. But we ain't got any questions for Mad Sidey anymore. You guys have asked some good questions. But I've already asked all my questions. So anything else, if we got any more questions?
I was going to say, because like Jim's saying about digital games as well. I think that's probably one thing that I'm glad I'm not anymore. I used to be a big gamer, mainly a console gamer when I was younger. I'm sort of glad that, because I would want to just play, like, insert a cartridge, insert a disc, and just play the game. None of this online, have to, get internet and do all this multiplayer stuff. I just want to go in and just play a game. Thank you very much. What was my favorite low-wage job? Working at Toys R Us.
I guess so. You got to see when all the new toys came out.
I worked at Toys R Us in the late 90s for a year. Amazing Spider-Man #2. As most people know, I only need 2 books to complete the entire run. When are you going to sell your popular money? Never, Mark, never. They need to stop making bloody Spider-Man pops every 2 seconds. Oh God, I knew he was going to ask this question.
I knew if Mark was here, that question was going to come up eventually.
Mark is on Mark is going to be on my back and on my campaign to get to Heroes Con until I actually do it. It will happen. Don't know if it's been asked, but who is the better YouTuber, Simon? Simple Simon is obviously the better YouTuber. He all you got to say is he edits. I don't. They just put it no, but he puts out way better content. I have better stuff, but he is the better YouTuber. If you could bring a DC character over to Marvel, who would it be? That's an
interesting question.
Ooh, that's actually I didn't know you were that smart, Simon. Good question.
Yeah.
I would like to say Batman, but that would be way too hard. I do have a bit of a soft spot for Constantine. Actually, I actually like Constantine as a character. If they brought Constantine over, I would buy Marvel Constantine books possibly. I wouldn't buy DC Constantine books though. If you could live in any other country, why did you choose America? I don't actually know whether I could. I know, Mark. I know.
You got to get you there. Okay.
And Mark's like, regardless of him badgering the absolute shit out of me to getting over there, I do love him for it, because I know he wants me over there, and I want to be over there, and I want to meet everybody. So I will get there one year. If you had to extend one animal off the face of the earth, what would it be and why? The mosquito.
There you go. That's a good answer. That's what I say.
If you ever come to Australia, especially in summertime, the flies during the day and the mosquitoes at night. Smart is your middle name.
Simple, smart, Simon.
I'm not going to say what your middle name is.
Okay.
Thank you, Christina.
We know what you
Over
meant.
to
He meant like
Marvel,
Batman. He would choose Batman at Marvel. Okay. Not the simple one. No offense. He said that's an insect. See, he's always splitting hairs over here.
Ah. Insects are still animals. It's just a class of animal.
Christina said spiders.
Yeah, not one particular spider, just all spiders.
All spiders, just all of them, right?
Spiders
well,
don't worry about.
I don't know what I would want to eliminate, but there are some annoying animals out there. I don't want to eliminate any animals. To be honest.
Yeah.
Although we do get
I've always said, and this is going to sound, I'm going to say it anyway, because Australians are, if you know anything about Australians, we are bluntly honest, and we quite often say before we think. Thanks, Cliffy. I love you too, brother.
If we kill spiders, we're going to kill Mad Sidey. We can't do that.
Yeah, I would rather. I've always been an animal lover. I would rather kill a human being than before killing an animal. It's just the way. Yeah, that's the question I was looking at. That's a very, very hard question. Like, obviously, Ditko because of Spidey, but I'd say for overall body of work and influence, I'd have to say the king. I'd have to say Kirby.
She's about the spiders. I know, but some look cute. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Maybe we could kill off some of the Spider-Verse people out of the books to kind of like narrow it down. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everything in nature has a purpose. A lot of people are like, oh, spiders, kill the spiders, but they control certain, you might have an infestation of mosquitoes or flies or something like that. They control that. Everything has a purpose in life.
Yeah. And Simon, I don't know how this always happens, but it seems when we're on a stream, whether it's on my channel or yours, it turns into National Geographic.
It does. It does very much.
Spider seek. We got
Australia's
populations.
Australia's going to. If you come to Australia, you're going to get killed. For everybody who does not already hear me say this a million times, it is a big misconception. Yes, there are a lot of things here, but if you don't go looking for them, they're not going to go looking for you. Plain and simple. Things happen. You get eaten by a bear or eaten by a bitten by a rattlesnake or a tarantula or something like that in the States or in North America.
Here in the States from wildlife just as easy as you can in Australia.
Exactly. But
they do make it sound like as soon as you step off the plane, if I was coming to Melbourne to visit you, I'm going to get eaten by a crocodile or bitten by a poisonous snake.
Exactly.
But now, that's like if I want to. Now, I'm sure that if I came over there to visit you, or you and Omnibo and all the other guys, I'm sure you could take me somewhere where you could die really quickly if I wanted to.
Easily.
But that's the thing. Where you're at. I mean, not in the more populated areas, but yeah, like in the more of the outback region of the.
If you're going forest, rainforest, going bush, going outback or anything like that, yes, stuff like that will happen or can happen. But if you're in metropolitan areas, it is way less common than you're more likely to die from a mosquito, bite. If you're get infected from malaria or something. Like, you don't get malaria here, but I'm just saying.
Don't ask me about the damn dingo eating a baby or taking a baby.
Oh yeah, get over it. That was like 81 or something. Everything in nature has a purpose. What's mine? To get me to Heroes Con.
So I think so. I think that's it. And Civil Simon's
like die crossing the street here. Yeah,
fuck mosquitoes.
Yeah.
This is a good point. You can die across the street here. Yeah.
You can do that here. Like, the amount of people you see, walking across the street, just looking at their phones, not paying any attention, can easily happen. Birds of paradise are not in Sydney, in other words. Birds of paradise is actually a plant. It's actually like a flowering plant. There is actually, I was going to say, there's actually some in the front yard where I am right now. I guess I'll try hard.
Well, I'm sure if you got a couple $1,000, you can send him for a plane ticket. He might, but
it's as I've said before, like, I'm not it's going to be a big undertaking for me because I'm a bad saver. I do not save money. I'm like right now. I've still got a week and a half left of holidays. I don't get paid till I get back to work, and I've got nothing, zero. So I am stuck at home. And actually, birds that are super weird and beautiful.
Oh.
Well, over here, birds of paradise is actually or bird of paradise is a flower. But yeah, there might be we have so many birds over here as well. Some, obviously we have a lot of indigenous birds, but we also have a lot of imports that are brought over for like a lot of countries, a lot of Western countries. You bring over something to, try and control a different species of something, and then that ends up backfiring, and then they become a plague, and yeah, that happens a lot.
We've had like where I live, they brought in a lot of what they call plant in Japan. It's like to grow the forest back quicker. It was called kudzu. It's a vine, and it's very intrusive. It's everywhere now. Or we got those Asian carp, and they like kill all the other fish in the ponds and stuff that showed up. But and then you got, well, of course, everybody's heard the stories about Florida, right? Simon, like they get all these exotic Burmese pythons and anacondas, and then they get too big, and they release them into the Florida, and because of the heat, they breed, and then so there's a lot of big snakes running around now in Florida that otherwise wouldn't be there probably. But here we go again. Here we go.
Oh, that's now depending on which way you want to look at this, the first thing that always comes to mind is Yowie is actually it's a confectionery. So it's actually an Australian sort of chocolate sort of thing where it's a bit like, because you guys have Kinder Surprise over there.
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, you may or not know, but it's like an Easter egg where it's an outer shell and it's actually got like a little plastic encasing with a little toy in it. And that's what a Yowie actually is, or mainly. Come on, Mark, be quiet. I grew up in Florida. It's ridiculous snake-wise. Yeah. Well, obviously, a lot of that stuff has come up from South America because they have some massive, massive snakes in South America. That's for sure.
They said that I have any relatives in Mooresville, North Carolina, or kudzu everywhere. Yeah, we got kudzu everywhere here. It's like it just like, and it's like it reminds me of like there was like an episode of G.I. Joe, the cartoon, where they had these seeds. If you threw them, it would just grow real quick and just cover everything up. So it's kind of like that. Okay. Well, if there's any more questions, let me know. We've went over time by 12 minutes. But
I'm an open book.
You ask him what his favorite color is or anything. I don't.
No, we won't go that far. I don't even have a favorite color, to be perfectly honest.
Like,
I did make sure I put on my new T-shirt that I got for Christmas.
Hell yeah! You probably got anything I wanted to show you what you got for Christmas except the shirt. I got this for Christmas. If anybody wants to know, thanks to my friend Flat Earth Santa, Wolverine 10. What's your ultimate goal? We got a question for Mark again. Mark killed. He's got the good. He's always got the hard questions. Yeah, I know.
What's your ultimate goal for your PC? Pass it on, sell it off late in life. I'm a very much. I know a lot of people future proof. Whether it's collecting or financial things and stuff like that. I always live in the now. Like obviously I have goals for getting stuff for the collection, but in actually doing it, I'll probably, I don't know, because I'm not having any kids. Don't have any kids. I'm not having any kids, so that will not be a point of contention. I don't really have any close relatives. I would most likely hand it down to either, a close friend, or maybe depending on obviously when and if the time comes, or when the time comes, somebody's kids, like a good friend, a good close friend's kids or something like that. They want to just sell it off and get some money. That's fine. I'd like to hand it down, obviously, to either somebody that I'm friends with or somebody's friends' kids that are into it. That would be the ultimate goal, but just something that I don't really think about too much.
Yeah, I don't have any kids, but I think if it was to happen, I'm probably going to get buried with like at least one of them, but not all of them. But like this one, I might get. I don't know. We'll see. If I get a G.I. Joe one, I'll probably be buried with that. But the rest of them probably go to my cousin's little son, Jonas. He loves. I've been getting him into comic books. You know, I give him comic books for his birthday and whenever he comes in, and so I can give them to him. You know, if I guess because I don't think I'm gonna have kids either, unless that not that I know of, in case accidents happen. But you never know.
What's Matt? Aaron's asking, how long have you been on YouTube? So I did mention that earlier. In April, it'll be 4 years for me. Well, 4 years of my channel. But in according to appearances, because I did appear, as I mentioned earlier, on Comic Book NYC channel, also appeared on Simple Simon's channel a couple of times before I even started. So actually being a part of the community and being on YouTube itself, probably 4.5 years, because it was about 6 to 9 months before I'd made my first few appearances to when I actually started my channel. So yeah, 4 years for my channel and 4.5 years all in total, roughly.
If you were to die today, how big of a burden is your collection for your family?
That would be an undertaking and a half, I can tell you. Well, seeing that my parents are a lot older, obviously my dad's going to be turning 90 next year. My mum is in her mid-80s, and they have absolutely no technological skills. I can't even teach my mum how to text. That's how untechnologically illiterate they are. I'd say probably relatives or the other half or something like that would have to do something with them. So,
or you'll have Simple Simon trying.
I'll have Simple Simon going, I can do it. So,
well, guys, I think we've about got to the end. I don't want to keep you all day. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a fun show.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
And you got any announcements for your channel you'd like to make?
I do have, as I sort of mentioned the other day, I did smash out a few videos. So I've got some content to just, put together and release while I'm on holidays. So there'll be, at least in the foreseeable future, there'll be another My Statue Collection video, another one of my Artist Series Collection videos. There'll also be a pop vinyl haul video as well. And then obviously Spidey's Outback Sunday morning for us and Saturday night for you guys. And then, I might possibly do some random live streams that if I get bored and I've got nothing to do while I'm on holidays, then obviously I'll do that. And obviously I'll be jumping on other people's open panels, things like that. And also this is fingers crossed with this one. I have mentioned a couple of times, but I do have a book on its way. It's actually been sent. That is my final piece for my 2024 collecting goals for this year. Obviously, I didn't achieve all of them, but I did achieve quite a lot of them. There is one more book coming that I'm hoping will come before the end of the year, so I can do the video and go, now I've finished with my 2024 goals. Let's look towards 2025. So, keep an eye out for that. I would say most likely next week. I'm hoping it will turn up. And yes, the flies are annoying.
And
thank you very much.
I guess we can ask that. I don't know.
I've read in a Sparkler comments from 1949 the kangaroos can broad jump 30 feet, but barely jump over a 3-foot fence. They have extremely long jumps. They're not really a high jump. They're more of a long jumper. But they have one of the strongest set of legs in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
They're not runners, they're jumpers. So literally 2 legs, sort of jump forward sort of thing. But that would probably sound about right. Yeah, they could jump over a fence.
Yeah. Well, before I go, I'll give a little housekeeping for my channel. There won't be a claim sale till next year, but I'm going to have a New Year's Eve stream, which will be, I guess, New Year's Day for you guys in Australia. but it'll be on New Year's Eve here, which will be at 9 p.m. Eastern my time. Well, I'm gonna start it. Just thought I'd do it. You know, if anybody wants to come out and be a community hangout like we did which I had a lot of fun with the Christmas Eve one we had the other day.
Just don't do what I did. New Year's Eve fell on a Spidey's Outback, and I started it at normal time, and I'm like, I'm going to keep going till New Year's, and then I started. Last couple of hours started getting a little bit hard, and the stream ended up going for 12 hours. So yeah, my longest stream ever, and I made it. And then as soon as we hit that midnight, I'm like, done. I just hit the end.
I don't know how I'm actually going to do it, but yeah. And then also Sunday, I had the Sunday Super Show Extravaganza at 6 p.m. Eastern my time. We do like the new previews and stuff like that. I think I'm gonna quit doing new comic book previews and just gonna do like the trending and hot 10 comics of the week. And we'll go over movies. This week we're going to go over the new 28 days or 28 years later.
Years later. Yeah.
We'll watch the trailer. I kind of paused it. We did it with the Superman trailer. And we'll talk about it a little bit and dissect it. I'm excited about it. I like Danny Boyle. He's one of my favorite directors. He directed Trainspotting, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. Anyway, and next week, on Thursday at 8:30 p.m., I think it's going to be 12:30 p.m. at your time in Australia. We're going to have Omni Bo from the Ozzyverse will be my guest. So,
you poor bastard.
Yeah, I know. We're another interesting ride next week. So, and then after that, we got some great guests coming in later on. I'll have Random Rips will be a guest. Hopefully, get Aaron on there. Actually, there's a couple of people in the chat I'd like to interview, like Simple Simon. If you'd like to reach out to me sometime, I'd love to have you on the show. A lot of other people. We got Comics and Bueller is going to come on.
Oh,
Comic
nice.
Tropes is going to be on. DJ Links has agreed to come on. So we got some good guests coming up in the new year. And actually, you're my last guest of the year. And I guess I'm bringing in another Australian next. I bring out the old year with an Australian, and I'm bringing in the new year with an Australian. So kind of a little symmetry there, right? So
as I said, you poor bastard. Nah, Bo's good value. I'm down to clown.
I'm down to clown. All right, that's good. Yeah. Just let me know. I'm booking into March right now. I feel like I'm.
Rob Fat Sacks with only slabs.
Yeah.
Aussie invasion.
That's right. Hey, I never knew I would.
I did miss one thing. I'm assuming it's still going ahead. I should be on Collectors Uncensored on 22 Comics' channel next week.
Okay, so everybody stay tuned for that.
He reached out to me after I made a comment. And he's like, "Oh, if you're on holidays." I said, if anybody wants me to jump on or anything like that, I'm more than happy. While I'm not doing a lot, so but yeah, should be on this. Yeah, it's supposed to be going ahead, but we haven't finalized everything yet. But should be on his channel next week.
Well, all right. Well, until next time, true believers. Excelsior.
And all the girlies say I'm pretty fly for a white girl.